Hey everyone, welcome back to my Earth Friendly Kitchen. I'm Maria, your host, and today we're making one of my favorite Southern classics, chicken fried steak. So chicken fried steak is literally just that. It's a piece of steak that's actually breaded and fried like you would fry chicken. That's where it gets its name from. But it's pretty simple. It's very staple in the South, where I lived in Texas for a really long time. And so we're gonna make that today for you. So I'm just gonna start by heating up my oil because it takes a little while to heat up. Now I'm actually going to be doing a mix of both canola and a little bit of olive oil just because I'm out of canola oil. I mean, that's, here we are. It's real life, guys. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil to help give me my nice thin kind of layer of oil in the pan to make up for it. I want it to be a shallow fry, but it still needs to have about 1/4 of an inch or so of oil in the pan. And you don't want to do just olive oil because it has a low smoke point. You want to add the canola to bring up the smoke point so that you can fry your stuff in. So first we're going to start with our flour. We're going to take about 2 cups or so of just regular all-purpose flour. I'm using the Italian flour because, the other flour from America upsets my belly, gluten sensitivity. But we're going to start by seasoning everything. So we're going to put some salt into our flour. Everything's going to go right into the flour. So we want to put about a teaspoon of salt, maybe about 1.5 teaspoons. And then you want to put a really generous amount of black pepper. I would say about a teaspoon as well of black pepper. You're going to put a lot of black pepper in your gravy as well as going to go on top of this chicken fried steak, so you're kind of mimicking those flavors. All right, then we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and about 1 teaspoon of paprika. I'm using smoked paprika. That's what I have, but you can use regular paprika. That's just as fine. Okay. And you're just going to take a fork and just kind of mix it in. Or you could take a whisk if you wanted to. This also helps to break up your flour when you mix in the seasoning like this. This helps to create it a little bit more fine texture so you avoid like clumps, which can sometimes become like hard battered chunks when you're frying something. You should be able to see some of your seasonings in there. If you don't, then you may have too high of a flour to seasoning ratio and you want to add a little bit more seasoning. Only reason I say do it by looks and not taste is because you really don't want to eat or taste raw flour. There tends to be quite, a bit of bacteria in there. So you want to just eyeball it if you can. All right, so now we started with our flour and then we're going to start with our eggs. So that's why we start, because we're going to whisk our eggs up and it's going to get our fork messy. All right, so we're just going to do 2 eggs in there because I only have 4 cube steaks here. If you had more steaks that you were going to be using, then maybe you would need more eggs. All right, so I'm just going to do that. And this guy goes in the composter. Okay. And then we're just going to whisk up our eggs like you normally would. I'm not going to beat them all the way just yet because I'm also then going to add some salt. I'm going to season my eggs. I'm going to add a little bit of salt here too, about 1/2 teaspoon there. Some black pepper, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. Same seasonings as your flour. You just want everything to be seasoned a little bit more in the eggs. Since you only have 2 in there, you want to do like 1/4 of what you used for your flour. All right. All right, and then beat them the rest of the way with your seasonings in it. Now we're going to do what's called a double flour method for our cube steaks. We're going to take 1 steak, put it in the flour. Now cube steaks are usually some kind of like cheap cut of meat, like a top round, a steak that's kind of tough and hard to break down, that's been run through some kind of meat tenderizer. So either you've pounded it out really well, or you get it already pre-cubed, which I did here, but I've done it the other way around too, where I pounded it myself. And, you get nice tenderized cut of meat. So that way when you eat this, it's not like chewing rubber. Because otherwise you would have to cook it for a very, very long time. And that's why these are great for the fry to do because they're already tenderized. And when you fry something, it usually cooks up really fast. If you did that with the different type of steak, it would, you know, cause it to seize up and just be super, super tough. So we're just flour, egg, flour again. That's what we're doing here to create a nice batter for our steak. And you want to make sure that everything is coated really well. Okay. And I have this pan here with some parchment paper that I'm just going to shake a little bit of the excess off and over here to rest while I do the rest. Now this makes for a really delicious low-cost meal because it's a cheap cut of meat. Now, like I said, I got mine already kind of cubed or beat up, tenderized. So, you know, it was a little bit more expensive. But if you bought the top round, you could get it for super low cost and do it yourself. And, you know, you still are going to get the same result. I just took a little bit of a cheap, easy way out today. And it came with 4 pieces. It came with like 3.5 pieces actually, which is perfect because we have 3 adults and a toddler in this house. You'll get a half. So now that I have all of my chopsticks here breaded, I'm going to test the oil, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle some of the flour that I had on my fingers into the oil. And if it bubbles up right away, we know it's ready. I mean, I'm not going to dirty a wooden spoon that I'm not using to test the oil this time, guys. All right. So I'm just going to place them gently, always away from you whenever you're frying anything, so that in case the oil splashes, it doesn't splash at you, it splashes away. And these are going to cook up. And while they're frying up, we're going to go ahead and make our gravy. You're going to want to first start your roux. You're going to take about 1/4 cup of butter. Now I'm making my gravy dairy-free because I am dairy-free, and it's easy to do it these days that way. So if you are not dairy-free, you could just follow the same exact recipe, but with dairy-filled products. So I'm using 1/4 cup of stick butter. It's about 1/2 stick because we know that when we measure 1/2 cup of butter is 1 stick, and that goes for all butters. And then I'm also going to be using 2 cups of oat milk. This is just regular plain oat milk, not flavored with like vanilla or anything like that. You can use almond milk, soy milk, any other milks you want if you're dairy free, or regular milk if you're not dairy free. And we're just going to get this butter all melted before we add our flour to it. Make sure you check your chicken fried steaks that they're not burning. And when they're nice and golden brown on both sides, you just put them on a clean piece of parchment paper to rest. Just like any other steak, you want to allow it to rest to make sure all the juice comes back to it. And set those aside. And once your butter's all melted, then you're going to add equal parts flour to your butter. Knock things over. So I'm using the same flour so that A, it doesn't go to waste, but B, it already has my seasoning in there as well that I use to bread my steak. Now, if you're worried about not being cooked or whatever, you're going to be cooking this roux, right? So you don't have to worry about cross-contamination with the raw egg because it's going to be cooked, right? So 1/4 cup is equal to 4 tablespoons. So that's what you're going to use because you used 1/4 cup of butter. And you're just going to mix that all in until your flour and butter are combined and becomes like a little paste. That's what a roux looks like, generally speaking. And try not to splash yourself. This is why we wear aprons in the kitchen, guys. And I'm going to let this cook a little bit. You want it to get a little bit brown, but not too brown because we're making a white gravy. Now, if you wanted to make a darker gravy, you would use, probably not milk, you would use like stock, like a beef stock or something, like if you're making gravy for like a roast. But you still don't want it to be super dark because you want your gravy to be light, right? All right, so we're just gonna let that cook a little bit, kind of stir it up so it doesn't burn. And then you are going to slowly add your milk to the pan, stirring it as you go so that you can break up any potential clumps and you don't create like dumplings in your gravy. You could also use a whisk for this if you want, but I think a spoon is just fine, and we need the spoon anyways to like taste and serve, and why dirty another dish, right? So we have everything mixed in. It's nice and creamy, all mixed together. And even though the flour was seasoned, we still need to add just a little bit more seasoning to it, but not much. You just want to do, again, another maybe 1/4 teaspoon of everything except your black pepper. Add a good generous helping of this black pepper. I mean, that's what the recipe calls for, probably at least a 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. But if you don't like black pepper as much, then just don't put as much in there. That's fine. You're eating it, not me. You make it how you want it. This is just the basics of a recipe that you can take and just make your own. But you're basically just adding the same flavor profile throughout. Give that a good mix. And you're just gonna let this cook for another few minutes until everything is nice and thickened up. And we're ready to serve it up once that happens. Okay, so our gravy is just about ready and our steaks are nice and rested. Take this here, put it on our plate. Now this is traditionally served with some mashed potatoes or French fries, some kind of potato, maybe some corn or greens on the side. Guys, you make it as your own, whatever side dishes you love that'll complement this dish. So we're just gonna pour some of that gravy right on top. Super delicious. Just let it run over, all over there. I'm gonna turn this heat off because this is done. And look at that. Oh my gosh, it doesn't get much better than that. Except if you went to LuLu's Cafe in San Antonio, Texas in the 1990s or early 2000s, where they had chicken fried steaks, I mean, as big as your whole plate. And you're talking about diner plates, not your regular home plates. Like diner plates, whole plate full. Your sides were on a different plate because that's how big they were. And taste did not sacrifice with quantity because it was unbelievable. Unfortunately, they closed down due to the pandemic. We're very sad. If you're from LuLu's or you know anybody who knows about LuLu's, if they're opening up a new business in Texas, I will fly back down there just for that. Of course, to see my family as well. But that was some good fried chicken. Anyway, chicken fried steak. We'll try this one now, and it should be maybe not as good as LuLu's, but pretty darn close. Guys, I'm using a butter knife to cut this because that's how tender this steak is. Like, you don't need a big steak knife for this. You could probably even cut it through with a fork, but just really beautiful, nice and cooked on the inside. Your batter sticking onto your steak here because you had that double egg flour. You got some of that gravy. Let me get a little bit more of that gravy. I mean, it will transport you. If you've ever had chicken fried steak in the South and you make this at home, you will be right back to it. I hope you love it. I hope you try it. If you do, don't forget to let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more channels like this, more recipes like this. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.